Hey everybody, welcome to this achievement guide for Batman Arkham Knight on the Xbox Series X. Today we are completing the achievement The Chill in the Air, and for this achievement you need to complete the Crime Alley AR challenge, unharmed as Batman, Robin, and Nightwing. So basically all that you need to do is make sure you get the no hit bonus on every wave while playing as each of these three characters. So let's talk about some tips for making sure you don't take any damage when you are completing these levels. Personally, I'd recommend that you go with the method of hitting, dodging, and hitting. So you want to get in a rhythm of hitting, evading, so you can jump over an enemy, just jump away, etc., and then hitting once again. This allows you to sort of avoid needing to counter, avoid incoming blade attacks, or any other attack that cannot be blocked or countered. So that way you're not taking unnecessary damage because you're not personally prepared to counter, press Y or whatever to try to avoid that damage. Evading is what I personally like to do, and if you do this and also consider what the enemies are armed with, so that would be a shield or a taser, things like that, you'll have a better idea of how to react in certain situations. If you ensure that you are always dodging, you can reorient yourself and prepare yourself for the next attack you will need to perform, whether that be an attack to take down a shield enemy, a beatdown on a brute, a regular attack, or even preparing yourself for a counter. Giving yourself that extra time when evading will benefit you greatly between each attack, and allow you to avoid damage extremely easily as well. So remember, you want to get into a rhythm of hitting, dodging, and then hitting once again, and just keep that up. That is going to benefit you greatly. Of course, there are circumstances where you need to perform a special attack, like using the back claw to sort of disable the electricity surrounding an enemy, but those are exceptions to the rule and to the rhythm of hitting, dodging, and hitting. Now that we have got all of those tips out of the way, let's get into the actual challenge levels themselves. So first off is Batman. Alright, so let's get started with the very first level for Batman. First off, we are going to be pausing so we can take a look at all the enemies. In this first wave, we have two bladed enemies. One of them is the ninja, and then we have a riot shield enemy. These are really the only notable enemies, of course, but for me, I'd recommend you take out the knife enemy. I do it with a really easy knife counter where you are dodging all those attacks in a pattern of 3, and then you get that full knockout on them once you conclude that combo. And then for me, I go for the enemy with the riot shield because once you take them down, then it is pretty easy to just get a chain of free flow going and you're not interrupted by a shield. All you need to do after that is really make sure nobody picks up the shield, and you can just keep going through this round. It will be very easy. Now let's go ahead and continue on with the round itself. I'm going to be showing prompts on the screen so that way you know the movements that I am taking. I'm just going to be showing the button prompts for dodging and evading. That is all I am going to be doing for this round specifically, and the rest of the rounds are just going to be rounds like normal. No prompts on the screen because that's too much work, of course, but also, you should know by now how to evade and how to attack. Here it is just indicating the rhythm that I take for this round specifically. Alright, let's go ahead and continue on. Okay, so like I said, I go for the knife enemy right away. I get that counter on him. Then I stun the enemy with the shield, make sure he's down, he has no shield. Then I just proceed with hitting all of the enemies in the area. Right here, I only need to evade a few times since there aren't many enemies, and then I just go for the final counter to finish them off. Like I said, the first level is the easiest and it should not give you any trouble. Alright, now let's take a look at the final score screen at the end of this round. As long as you made sure you check for the no hit bonus at the end of each round, that is how you know you're on track, and if you get no hit bonuses on every single round, you'll get, I think, is it Perfect Night? Or I don't remember what the final bonus is, but you'll get a final bonus for not getting hit at all throughout all of them, and that's how you know you will be on track for this achievement. So let's continue on with round 2. Alright, so starting up round 2, we are going to have to deal with a brute. We've got the enemy with the taser, and then we have the shield enemy. So personally, I'd recommend that you target the brute immediately, so that way you can get a beatdown on him and get him taken care of, so that way the brute is no longer an issue. Then I'd recommend you watch out for the taser enemy, and once you have a combo available, I'd say that you should use the dismantle special move, so that way there are no longer any tasers in play and it is just broken and no other enemies can use it. Then you can focus on the shield enemy. You can also dismantle the shield, but personally I find it to just be good to leave it on the ground. But regardless, as long as you take out the brute and you take out the taser, the major threats have been taken care of, and it is then just a matter of evading and hitting, especially if you have the shield on the floor or dismantled. It really will be just evading and hitting, and it will be a very easy round after those two threats are taken care of. So let's proceed with the level. What I like to do immediately is stun the brute, so that way I can get a beatdown in and get some easy hits, get a combo built up. Then I like to use my special attack on the brute, so that way I do easy damage. Then from there it is just a matter of building up my combo once again, so that way I can take down the brute with my final special attack. And this entire time I am going to be watching for the shield enemy and the taser enemy, because they can interrupt my combo and easily damage me. So now the taser is out of play, it is currently on the ground, and the shield has been picked up once again, so I'm going to knock that person out. Then just continue on watching the taser on the floor. You can see it just got picked up once again, and I am going to continue fighting, just making sure I evade over this enemy with the taser and they do not damage me by me attacking them from the front side. So once the enemies are taken care of, that is round 2 completed, and just make sure every time you complete a round, you are checking that final score screen to make sure that it says you had taken no hits. Alright, so now taking a look at the screen, it says we took no hits, so let's continue on to round number 3. When we start up round 3, we can see that there is a brute, there is a medic, and then there is an enemy with a gun. You want to make sure that you dismantle the gun as soon as possible, because they can damage you from afar if you are not quick enough to attack them. It always prompts you when they do attack with a gun, so they're easy to counter and easy to catch. But personally, I'd recommend you just get it out of play and dismantle it with the special attack. So you need to build up a combo for that. And then, of course, you want to make sure you attack the brute here. But this brute actually does have some special weapons, so sometimes it is not safe to attack them. So for me, in this round, I don't go for the beatdown immediately. What I do is I build up my combo on all of the other enemies, and then with that combo, I then use that special attack on the brute, and then the brute is just taken out very easily for me with 2 special attacks, and then I can move on. And then finally, we have the medic. You need to watch out for the medic, because you do not want the medic to be reviving his teammates. If he is reviving his teammates, then you're just gonna have more enemies to deal with, and that is just more of a chance for you to get damaged, right? Plus, the medic does actually have the ability to electrify his teammates, so you want to make sure that you avoid that at all costs. You can of course use the bat claw to disable that electricity and then attack those enemies, but you just want to do your best to avoid that happening at all, so it would be best for you to take out the medic ASAP. So for me, I'd recommend that you get the gun out of play, then you go for the brute, and then finally you go for the medic. The order is up to you, but that's my personal recommendation. Now, let's get started with the round itself. Alright, so first off, I'm avoiding that brute, then I'm taking out the shield enemy, then getting the gun out of that grunt's hands. Then I'm doing my best to build up my combo, and you can see I have this electrified enemy here, so I'm using the bat claw to disable that electricity. Now I have my combo built up a tiny bit. I'm going to first use that combo on the brute here, then I'm going to disable electricity again on that enemy, and continue to try and build up that combo meter. I took care of that gun there. I'm focusing on the medic here. I build up my combo a little bit, and then I use the second combo on the brute to take him out. Now the brute's taken out, and the main threat is going to be the medic, because they can electrify the enemies, and of course the gun. So I'm taking out the medic before they can do too much more support for the enemies, and just building up my combo more and more. You can see I got that gun out of the enemy's hands right away once they were firing, and I took out that medic ASAP. Now I'm continuing on. You can see they picked up the gun once again. They really do not chill with that gun, but I'm keeping an eye on it and doing my best. I could have dismantled it, but I didn't need to. I could have just kept my combo up and it was all good, right? So that is round 3 completed. It was a bit of a quick one, so definitely pause and play the video wherever you may need assistance. But you can see that we did get the no hit bonus, so we can continue on without worrying about missing out on the achievement. So let's start up round 4, and in this round we are going to be worried about a few more enemies than the previous rounds, but the principles will still remain the same. You can see that there are 2 brutes, there are 2 medics, and there are 2 guns. There is of course the shield enemy, but that isn't as important as the brutes and the guns are going to be. Of course the medics are very important as well, but personally I'd recommend you pay attention to the brutes and the guns. So, as usual, make sure that you build up your combo so that way you can use some special attacks to take out the brutes very easily. It takes 2 special attacks per brute, so you need 4 special attacks total, so that way you can take them out without even needing to perform a beatdown. And then after you've done that, you are of course this entire time going to be making sure that the guns are not going to be able to be fired at you, so you can dismantle them with the relative special attack, or you can just make sure that you keep knocking them out of the enemy's hands. And this entire time, you want to make sure that you are avoiding any of the electrified enemies that the medics have created, and you want to make sure you are focusing on the medics as best as you can. Just regular hits on them will knock them out after long enough, but it is really annoying when the medic revives another medic, because then it's just another thing to worry about with the medics. So you want to make sure that if you knock out one medic, they don't revive the other medic, because that can be really annoying and they can create a ton of electrified enemies if you're not paying attention. So disable any electrified enemies with the backclaw ASAP, and just do your best to clear out the enemies as efficiently as possible in the order of the brutes, then clearing out the guns from the area, just making sure they're not in play, and then finally the medics, and then proceed with the rest of the enemies. So let's get started with this round. So we are going to make sure that we disabled any electrified enemies, of course. That was an easy one to start off with. Then we are just going to make our way around all of these enemies that are safe to attack, build up our combo, use that special attack on the brute. You see the gun, it just popped up. We made sure that they were knocked down and they couldn't fire at us. Then we are just continuing to attack and evade, and build up our combo. Now that we've got a special attack, we can use another one on a brute, and that way that brute has been taken out. Then we are going to disable that electrified enemy, and then there is another electrified enemy in play that we need to be worried about, so we want to make sure we don't attack him or attack anybody near him. And then now we are going to disable him really quickly and then use the special attack on this brute. Now we only need one more special attack to be used on the brute, and we can continue to focus on building up our combo meter. So now that the combo meter is back up, we can go ahead and use the final special attack for the brute takedown. Then all we need to worry about are the guns and the medics. And so we are just going to make sure that we are constantly attacking the enemies, watching out for any electrified enemies. But if we're quick enough, we can make sure that they can't electrify anyone. Unfortunately, I wasn't quick enough. But now that I do have a special attack available, I'm able to take out that medic really easily. Then I am taking out the enemy with a shield, then disabling this other electrified enemy. Then finally continuing on with the rest of the enemies, making sure the guns cannot fire at me. And I am focusing on this medic here, making sure they cannot revive anybody. Since they are the last medic, they're really easy to control and make sure they don't get their revives in. But if I'm not quick enough, just that one extra enemy gets picked up like it was here. Pretty annoying, but not anything crazy. And then finally, we have defeated the last enemy. Really, once you take care of those difficult enemies, the rest just fall into place and it gets very, very easy. Alright, and that is the end of all 4 rounds. As long as you made sure you got the no-hit bonus on every single round, you have also achieved the perfect night bonus, and that lets you know you are a third of the way there from completing this achievement. So let's go ahead and move on to getting a perfect night bonus with Robin. Alright, so let's get started with Robin. Just like Batman, we have 1 shield enemy and then we have 2 knife enemies to start with in this first round. It's a very easy round, so I'd recommend you just go for the knife enemy as soon as they attack you. Go for that knife counter, and then go for the shield enemy. Just make sure that they have the shield down, and then you can get an easy chain like I will. It's not too much trouble if you leave the other bladed enemy and just hit it as part of the free flow combo, because they aren't too much trouble if you just continuously evade. I am going to be putting the prompts up on the screen for this very first round, just so you can see how I sort of performed all these actions and such. This is what I'm just going to be doing for the first round for every character, so that way you have an understanding of what's happening. Like I said, not going to do it in every single round because that's far too much work. It is just a matter of emphasizing that evading, hitting, evading, hitting is definitely the way to go. Although I don't think I do too much evading in these early rounds just because it is much easier, but evading is always very useful. You'll see me use it in the later rounds all of the time. It saves my ass a ton. Alright, so let's get started with this first round. Alright, so right off the bat, normally the knifed enemy attacks, but for me, I just countered the enemy that was attacking me regularly. And then it is just a matter of evading and hitting, evading and hitting. I had built up my combo, so I used the special attack on the bladed enemy. Then I went ahead and I knocked down the enemy with the shield. Then I proceeded to evade and hit, evade and hit. It was very easy for me to keep it up this way because of just the lack of enemies. There aren't very many, so Just keep up the evading and hitting, and that way you won't take any damage at all for sure. You'll be dodging everything. And then with that final enemy taken out, that is the first round completed. And to make sure that you are on track to unlock this achievement, always check that you got the no hit bonus at the end of every single round. Alright, let's move on to round number 2. In this round, it isn't too much harder, but we do have a bit more enemies to deal with. In this round, we've got the enemy with the taser, and then we have got the brute. Personally, I'd recommend you go for the beatdown on the brute, so that way you can build up your combo easily, and then perform a special attack if necessary to take down the brute very quickly. It takes 2 special attacks if you do not do enough damage with the beatdown, but just keep building up your combo and using these special attacks on the brute until they are taken out. And then I'd recommend you go for the taser enemy. Just make sure that nobody is holding the taser, because if you mistakenly attack the taser enemy head on, you will take damage from that shock. So just make sure that you take out the taser enemy ASAP after you have taken out the brute. And then after that, you want to take down the riot shield enemy just so they don't interrupt your free flow. And then just keep on evading and hitting, evading and hitting. You don't need to worry too much about all of the other enemies. The main ones you want to focus on would be the brute and of course the enemy with the taser. Alright, now let's get started with this round. Alright, so right off the bat, I go for the beatdown on the brute to build up my combo. Then the enemy with the taser tries to attack, so I evade and then use my special attack on the brute. Then I take down the enemy with the riot shield. Now it is out of play and I am proceeding to build up my combo. Once it's built up, I use the special attack to take down the brute, and then I am continuing on doing my best to avoid the taser and then getting it out of the enemy's hands. Now nobody has anything to block me and I just need to keep an eye on the taser and the riot shield on the ground, and I am just evading, hitting, keeping that rhythm up so that way I am not taking any damage. And then the enemy picked the taser up once again, so I am going to get it out of their hands by jumping behind them, and then I am evading, hitting, continuing on and on until all the enemies are taken out. I can use special attacks, but really it is very easy to just evade and hit, plus you get a higher combo which results in more points at the end of the day. Alright, and that is the end of the second round. Once again, always double check that you did get the no hit bonus. It gives you good points and it is required for this achievement. Now let's move on to round number 3. Alright, in this round, what we have to deal with is mainly the medic and the enemy with the gun. We do want to knock out the riot shields from the enemy's hands, but primarily we want to focus on the medic and the gun. So first off, I'd recommend you just get the medic taken out ASAP, because they can electrify enemies and you can disable that sort of electricity barrier by using the zip kick, and that will sort of disable it. You'll be able to damage them, you won't need to worry about those enemies, but just avoiding that taking place entirely would be best to just take out the medic, right? That's what's best to do. And especially if you take out the medic, you can take out all the other enemies without worrying about them getting revived. So the medic would be priority number 1, and then you want to make sure that the gun is just out of the hands of the enemies, just like the taser in the previous round. Just make sure nobody is holding onto the gun, because if you're not quick enough and you don't knock it out of their hands fast enough, you may get damaged by them from a long distance. So it's just really frustrating when a gun takes down that little bit of health and you have to restart because of it. So just make sure that you focus on the medic and the enemy with the gun, and then get rid of those riot shields, and you should have a very easy round after that. There isn't going to be anybody blocking you other than the riot shields, so the free flow can be really straightforward here. Alright, let's get started with the round. Alright, so right off the bat, I get an easy knockdown on the riot shield, then I disable the enemy with the zip kick, then I'm going to be continuing on making my way over to the medic, and I use the special attack to take them down really easily. Then I get the enemy's guns out of their hand, and then now it is just a matter of keeping up that free flow, dodging and hitting, and making sure that nobody picks up that gun. Right now there's nobody to worry about aside from the enemies with the gun and the enemies with the riot shield. So whenever the opportunity comes, I do stun and make sure I slam down on the enemies with the riot shield, just so I can keep my free flow up really easily. Use special attacks, whatever you want, so that way the free flow is really easy. I'm doing it for points as well, so I want to make sure it is as easy as possible and as lucrative as possible, so I can get as many points for 3 stars. Alright, so now we are on our last enemy, and it was honestly a very straightforward level. When it comes to Batman and Nightwing, they deal with more brutes, so Robin has a much easier time in making sure you take no damage. So remember to check that you got the no hit bonus before you proceed to the next round, because you want to make sure you get that for the achievement. Alright, now let's get started on round 4. Alright, now let's take a look at the final round's enemies. This is going to be just like the previous round. We have 2 guns to deal with and we have 2 medics to deal with. We of course have 3 riot shield enemies, but obviously our priority is going to be the medics and the guns. So just do whatever you can to make sure that the guns are out of the enemy's hands, and prioritize the medics right away so that way they cannot electrify enemies and you won't take damage from those types of enemies. If you do, remember that you can disable the electric barrier by using the zip kick, and it should be very straightforward. So my order of sort of who you want to target would definitely be medics, then the enemies with the guns, and then you can focus on the riot shield enemies, bladed enemies, whatever, but definitely take care of those 2 enemies for sure, and then continue on just making sure nobody picks up any guns, and if they do, you knock them down as soon as possible. Alright, let's get started with this final round. Alright, so right off the bat, I'm going to just take down one of the riot shield enemies. Then I'm going to head over to the area with the medics and take care of any of the gunned enemies, building up my combo so that way I can take down one of the medics. With this shocked enemy, I disable them really quickly, then I take out the medic with a special attack. Then I'm going to be continuing on building up my combo, watching out for any of the gunned enemies, disabling any electrified enemies, taking down any of the riot shield enemies as they come by, and then taking out that medic with the special attack once I have built up my combo enough. Now it is just a matter of making sure that I watch out for any of the riot shield enemies, making sure that nobody picks up any guns so that way I don't take any damage from a distance, and just keeping up the hitting, evading, using special attacks on the tougher enemies like the riot shield enemies so I have one less issue to worry about, and consistently evading, hitting, just doing my best to knock down all of the enemies as soon as possible. So once I have my special attack ready, I go ahead and I use it on one of the bladed enemies because they can be pretty troublesome, and just continuing the evading, hitting process, just keeping that rhythm until all of the enemies have been defeated. Once all these enemies are defeated, that is the final round, and you have completed 2 out of 3 requirements for the achievement, the chill in the air. So that wasn't too crazy with Robin. Nightwing and Batman are a different story. But remember to double check that you did get the perfect night bonus, because if you did, you got 0 hits during the entirety of this AR challenge. So that is all 4 rounds of this AR challenge completed with Robin. Let's move on to Nightwing. Alright, now it is time to start up the Crime Alley AR challenge with Nightwing, and we are going to be looking at the enemies right off the bat. This is just like Batman and Robin. The only enemies you really need to worry about would be the bladed enemies and the riot shield enemies. Even then, it's not going to be exceedingly difficult. Just be sure to avoid any of the bladed enemies if you attempt to counter them. Just make sure you correctly counter them to avoid that damage. And then of course, do your best to take down the shield enemies so you can have some very easy free flow. Now with that out of the way, let's go ahead and take a look at the actual round itself. I am going to be placing the prompts on the screen so that way you know what I am doing. I just want to further emphasize that the evade, hit, evade rhythm is effective, and the best way to illustrate that is of course in the very first round when there aren't as many enemies and it's not too much work to add all of these prompts onto the screen. I'm only doing it in this round just like I did it for Batman and Robin. It's only going to be in this very first round, it won't be in the remaining ones, because that's too much work. So let's go on and complete this very first round. Alright, so right off the bat, I'm going to be countering this bladed enemy. They attacked me first, so that is how I'm going to be starting the round. Then I am going to be taking out the riot shield, so now my free flow will not get interrupted unless I get hit, but as you can see, I am evading, I am hitting, getting into that rhythm, and it is pretty easy to avoid any incoming damage by going into the rhythm of hitting, evading, hitting. I use my special attack there because I had enough of a combo, so that gives me a good variation bonus at the end of the round. And then now the round is finished. That was a very easy first round for sure. Once you get to the combat summary, make sure you take a look at the bonuses and ensure you got the no hit bonus, so that way you know you are on track to get this achievement, because it does require you to make sure you do not get damaged at all. Now let's continue on to round number 2. Alright, so starting up round 2, we are going to take a look at the enemies once again. In this round, just like Batman, just like Robin, the only enemies I'd suggest that you worry about would be the Brute and then the enemy with the taser. Of course, you want to avoid hitting these shields and interrupting your free flow, but really you only need to be concerned about taking damage from the Brute and the taser. So I'd personally recommend you go for the beatdown on the Brute right away, so that way You can build up your combo super easy and then use a special attack to finish them if you need to, if you get interrupted at all. That is definitely my go-to method for taking down the brute quickly. And then of course doing your best to avoid the taser. Just make sure that it is knocked out of the enemy's hands and it's on the floor. And then throughout the level, keep an eye on it, making sure that no enemies pick it up. If they do, just knock them over once again and get it out of their hands. Definitely do the same for the riot shield, but since it can't damage you, it shouldn't be a priority compared to the taser. Alright, let's get started with this round. Alright, so right off the bat, I go for the beatdown on the brute, and then since the enemies that are attacking me are able to be countered, I just continue with the beatdown. It's pretty easy to keep up the beatdown between counters, so you shouldn't need to worry about anything. What I was worried about is if the enemy with the taser did come attack me because I couldn't counter that. But luckily, that didn't happen for me, so I just continued the beatdown. Of course, if I wanted to, I could have used the special attack to take down that brute, and it would have been no problem. But anyways, we are continuing on. You can see I'm just hitting, evading, continuing on and on, just like that, keeping that rhythm up, avoiding all of the enemies that I can't exactly hit, making sure I take down the enemy with the shield, and then the round is over. That one felt really quick to me. I don't know if it was just you, but dealing with that brute and then making sure the taser is out of play makes things really easy. Alright, let's move on to round number 3 and let's take a look at all of the enemies. Alright, so in this round you have to deal with a brute, a medic, and an enemy with a gun. I personally recommend that you build up your combo by targeting the medic and the other easy enemies, hopefully taking out the medic in the process, and then I'd recommend that you use 2 of your special moves to take down the brute as soon as possible. Remember that the medic not only revives knocked out enemies, but they can give their allies an electric charge which can only be disabled by using the backclaw. Once both the brute and the medic are down, make sure that you keep the gun out of the hands of the enemies throughout the entire level, and of course do your best to make sure that the riot shield is on the ground at the same time, so that way you can have a very easy time getting some free flow going and you can take out these enemies extremely easily. Now let's go ahead and get started with the round itself. Alright, so starting off, like I said, avoid that brute. I'm taking out the enemy with the shield, then disabling the enemy that is electrified, and then I'm targeting the enemies in this area, getting rid of that gun from the enemy's hands. Then with the special attack I have, I am using it on the brute. Then I'm just continuing to attack enemies and evade to the best of my ability. And then luckily, since I had targeted all of the enemies in that corner, I was able to take out the medic, and then I used the special attack on the brute. So now I have 2 of the main threats out of the way, and all I need to worry about is the gun. So it is just continuing on and watching out for the riot shield, attacking and evading, just keeping that rhythm up, making sure I'm not getting damaged by any attacks, and I am just continuously moving around so that way I won't get hit. Remembering to make sure that I want to keep up my free flow because I do want the points, so I am making sure none of the enemies pick up the riot shield so that way I can easily continue on with my combo. Anyways, that is the end of this round. I was able to attack and evade for the remainder of those easy enemies, and I am ensuring once again that I have the no hit bonus once the round is completed. Now let's continue on to our final round as Nightwing. So taking a look at all of the enemies, it is basically double the threat from the last round. What we are going to be doing is treating it just the same. We're going to avoid the brutes and make sure to build up our combo on the easy enemies. Then we are going to use whatever special attacks that we do have on the brutes themselves, making sure we are targeting the medics so that way they can't always electrify enemies. And remember, to disable the electricity surrounding an enemy, you use the backclaw, and then you can easily attack them, not worry about getting damaged. And then of course we have the guns to worry about. What we're going to be doing is just making sure they aren't in the hands of the enemy extremely often, so that way we don't have to worry about damage from a distance. So my recommended order of operations and who you want to target would be the medics, then the enemies with the guns, so that way you can build up your combo to use special attacks on the brutes. It will take 4 special attacks total, so be patient with this one. Definitely try your best, and definitely remember to hit and evade, so that way you are constantly moving and you're avoiding any damage possible. Alright, let's get started with the final round. So once again, I am avoiding those brutes right off the bat. I am disabling any of the enemies that are electrified, so that way I do not get damaged by them. I'm getting rid of the enemies that have the guns. I'm using the special attacks on the brutes so that way I can do some easy damage on them. I'm continuing to evade and attack, building up my combo, making sure to avoid any of the electrified enemies. I'm using the special attack that I saved up on the brute so that way now I only have one brute to deal with. I'm constantly moving, keeping an eye on where the gun is, and I am making sure to disable the electrified enemies that are nearby me, so that way I have one less thing to worry about. Taking care of the guns, making sure to use any special attacks that I build up on the brutes, and just continuing to evade and attack, evade and attack. You can kind of see a pattern here. It does get kind of messy in this final round, but if you remember the tips that I gave in the beginning, if you are evading and attacking, you get that extra second to reorient yourself and figure out where the targets that you want to focus on will be. So you can see right now I have the brutes taken care of completely. I don't need to worry about them. Now the main threats are the medics. I just took down one of the medics, and then this medic here, I used a special attack on them. Now I don't have to worry about any of the medics. All I need to worry about really would be the guns. So I am just watching out for anybody picking up any guns, and I'm continuing to evade and attack, and I am completing this round without getting damaged at all. So once you have gotten to this point, make sure to take a look at the final combat summary. If you see that you got the perfect night bonus, you have completed every single round while playing as Nightwing without getting damaged. At this point, you will have unlocked the achievement as soon as you have gotten to this screen here. And that is all that is required to complete the achievement, the chill in the air. Just make sure that you do not take any damage while playing through this AR challenge, while playing as Batman, Robin, and Nightwing. Wow, this was a very long video. This video got much longer than I ever expected it to. I thought this wasn't going to be so long, but I do hope that you were able to appreciate it. Anybody watching this, please do drop a comment and let me know if this was able to help you. I do love hearing that, and it definitely gives me motivation to continue making videos to this extent and with this much meticulous detail. So with all that being said, please stick around and subscribe to my channel. Drop a like if you did enjoy and appreciate the video, and I will see you in the next one. Take care, everybody.